Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, this is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And we are reading from Chapter 7, Knowledge of the Absolute, Text 19. Bahunam janmanamante Jnanavamam prapadyate Vasudeva savam iti samahatma sadulabhaha. Translation. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Purport. The living entity, while executing devotional service or transcendental rituals after many, many births, may actually become situated in transcendental pure knowledge that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate goal of spiritual realization. In the beginning of spiritual realization, while one is trying to give up one's attachment to materialism, there is some leaning towards impersonalism. But when one is further advanced, he can understand that there are activities in the spiritual life, and that these activities constitute devotional service. Realizing this, he becomes attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrenders to Him. At such a time, one can understand that Lord Sri Krishna's mercy is everything, that He is the cause of all causes, and that this material manifestation is not independent from Him. He realizes the material world to be a perverted reflection of spiritual variegatedness, and realizes that in everything there is a relationship with the Supreme Lord Krishna. Thus he thinks of everything in relation to Vasudeva or Sri Krishna. Such a universal vision of Vasudeva precipitates one's full surrender to the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna as the highest goal. Such surrendered great souls are very rare. This verse is very nicely explained in the 3rd chapter, verses 14 and 15 of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad. Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat Sabumim Vishvato Vritva Tyatishtat Dashan Gulam Purusha Evadam Sarvam Yadbhutam Yadchabhavyam Utamritasva Yeshnano Yad Anena Trirohati. Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, and thousands of feet, entirely encompassing the whole universe. He still extends beyond it by 10 fingers' breadth. He is, in fact, this entire universe. He is all that was and all that will be. He is the Lord of immortality and of all that is nourished by food. In the Chandogya Upanishad 5.1.15 it is said, Naiva vacho na chukshmangshi na shrotrani na mamsit chakshate prana iti ivakshate prana hi evatani sarva bhavanti. In the body of a living being, neither the power to speak, nor the power to see, nor the power to hear, nor the power to think is the prime factor. It is life which is the center of all activities. Similarly, Lord Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, is the prime entity in everything. In this body there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, of mental activity, etc. But these are not important if not related to the Supreme Lord. And because Vasudeva is all-pervading and everything is Vasudeva, the devotee surrenders in full knowledge. Bhagavad Gita 7.17, 11.40 reference. Om Jnanatipadandasya Gunanjana Shalakaya Chakshulanmaditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Mukam Gaditavachalam Pangam Langarite Gidim Yakripatamaham Vandeshi Gurun Diditaranam Vancha Kapadavishta Kripa Sindhubevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Ramanamha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Vedikadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So I'll read the translation again. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. So people have different concepts of religion, which the word religion means to link or to connect with God, same as yoga. And so people have different concepts of how to engage in religion or how to make progress in spiritual life. And people also have different concepts of God. They have different concepts of God. So some people have the concept that God is absolutely impersonal, and some have the concept that He's absolutely personal, and some have the concept that He's just absolutely in everybody's heart. But from the Bhagavat Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it says that He's not absolutely impersonal, nor absolutely personal, nor absolutely in everybody's heart. Means He's not just, He doesn't just have one feature. The absolute truth doesn't just have one feature. But specifically, the absolute truth has three features. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan iti Shabhyate. So it says that there's three features, and the three features are the Brahman aspect of the Brahmajyoti, the impersonal effulgence emanating from Krishna's transcendental form, and the other one is Krishna's personal form, means as a person, transcendental person with a spiritual form, and the other one is Krishna within everybody's heart. So there's three aspects to the absolute truth. And that's considered to be a full picture of the absolute truth. So this verse is indicating that after many births and deaths, one who's actually in knowledge, they surrender to Krishna. Krishna speaking here, this says, surrender to me. Knowing me to be the cause of all causes in such a great soul is very rare. Do you think you could please close the door? That's, or yeah, one. Okay, two of you, one of you, just so the noise of the kitchen doesn't come out here. So one who is a rare soul, they understand this, that there's Krishna, different features of Krishna, and they surrender to Krishna. And to surrender to Krishna, what does that mean practically? That means that we have different things we could surrender. It says that we could surrender our body in Krishna's service, we could surrender our mind in Krishna's service, we could surrender our words in Krishna's service, we could surrender our hard-earned money in Krishna's service. There's different things we could engage. There's different, you could say, ways in which we could surrender. Of course, it's good if we just surrender everything. But whatever the case is, the idea is that we should try to engage somehow or other in Krishna's service, however that may be, however that may look according to our particular situation we find ourselves in. But a lot of the times people may not, you could say, understand or appreciate this idea of surrendering to Krishna, or even the idea of thinking of God at all, or thinking of Krishna at all. They think it's practically useless. Like there was one fellow, Indian fellow, he passed away, but he was husband of one of our congregation members, and anyways, he happened to be atheistic. Means he didn't believe in God. She does, but he didn't. And he made the point that I got whatever I wanted in life, because he was a wealthy person, and wealth means you could practically get whatever you want in this world. So I made the point that I got whatever I wanted, and I never prayed to God once. He said I never said one prayer to God, and I got everything I wanted. So interesting enough is that about a few days or within a week of saying that, he walked out of his beautiful house in a beautiful location of SanDiego, very expensive location in SanDiego, and he walked out and he had a heart attack and he died. But you could say that he, of course, you could say, oh, was that Krishna, or what was that all about? Now, I'm not claiming it's necessarily, of course, Krishna's in charge of everything, but the point is, he didn't want that. He was fairly young, he wasn't elderly, but he didn't want that. So he's saying he got everything he wanted in life without praying to God, but he definitely didn't want that, to have a heart attack in an early age and leave. So, so people may claim that they don't need God, or they get everything they want, or so many things like that. But somebody who's fortunate, somebody who's intelligent, somebody who's fortunate, somebody who's pious, somebody who's made some progress either in the last life or this life, they could understand that these ideas are just nonsensical. They don't make any sense. So the idea is that wherever we find ourselves on the spectrum of, okay, we have the spectrum of not surrendering at all, like this man, he didn't want to surrender at all, right? He didn't want to think of God, he said he never prayed to God ever. So you have that spectrum there. That's like the complete, you could say, opposite of surrender. And then you have a whole spectrum of surrender, all the way up to 100% surrender to Krishna. So wherever we may find ourselves, and hopefully we don't find ourselves near this fellow, mentally or consciously we don't find ourselves over there, but hopefully we find ourselves a little more advanced than that, hopefully a lot more advanced than that. But wherever we find ourselves, we should try to make progress from that stage, and not, you could say, lose track of the goal or where we're trying to go. It means towards Krishna consciousness. And in relation to this fellow and not surrendering, he said, I got whatever I want, I never prayed. The fact is, we all have to surrender. It means that, like Srila Prabhupada was in Seattle once, and he said that or he was there giving a talk, and he was talking about surrendering to Krishna. And some young man in the audience raised his hand and challenged, said, "Oh, Swamiji, I don't want to surrender." And then Srila Prabhupada said, "You have diagnosed your own disease." He said, "You're in a disease. You've diagnosed your own disease." And he says, "You're forced to surrender." And the man said, "Well, I don't want to surrender to anybody spiritually, because they saw people bowing down to Srila Prabhupada, and I don't want to surrender to anybody spiritually." Means a guru or God. And he said, Srila Prabhupada said, "You're forced to surrender. You're forced to bow down." And Prabhupada said, "You're forced to bow down to the laws of material nature," which he said, old age, disease, birth, rebirth, and death. You have to bow down. So either you bow down, so it's not a question of, oh, well, do I want to bow down or do I not want to bow down? Or it's a question of who is the living entities, who are the living entities going to bow down to in such a way as that they'll actually become happy. In other words, who are they going to be submissive to? They're going to be, who are they going to be a servant of? The laws of material nature or Krishna? Who's going to be the master there? So the idea is that we want to surrender to Krishna and not just be forced to surrender to the laws of nature, which means repeated suffering and illusion. But it may take some time for us to fully, could say, realize this or grasp this. So therefore the idea is every day we should meditate on Krishna. Chant, we have the Harekrishna Maha Mantra here, we chant every day without fail. We read Bhagavad-gita, a verse, purport, and this way gradually we, everything becomes clear in relation to all these different points. And lastly is that in the Bhagavatam it says that we have different power, right? We have power to speak, power to see, power to walk, these different things, right? The different abilities we have. So, and it says here that it's all under Krishna's control. In other words, without Krishna's mercy, we can't do any of those things. He doesn't have the power to speak, hear, anything like that. So, it says, Lord Vishnu has thousands of heads, thousands of eyes, thousands of feet. He extends beyond the universe. It says, in the body of a living entity, neither the power to speak, see, hear, think is the prime factor. It is life, which is the center of all activity. Similarly, Vasudeva or Krishna is a prime entity in everything. In this body there are powers of speaking, of seeing, of hearing, of mental activities. But these are not important if not related to the Supreme Lord. So in other words, the senses are actually meant to be engaged in the service of the master of the senses, right? We have Rishikesh, which means he's the master of the senses. So the senses are actually meant to be engaged in Krishna's service. And the Bhagavatam says that if the senses aren't engaged in Krishna's service, they're actually useless. Completely useless. And not even useless, they're harmful. They completely ruin the living entity's lives. And the examples are given. It says the trees are there standing very nicely. So it said similarly the legs that are not used for going to the temple, they're just like tree trunks. And it says the eyes that do not see the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are just like eyes on the eyes of peacock feathers. You see kind of little eyes on peacock feathers. And it says that the breathing, that people are doing, it's just like the bellows breathing. Like you're trying to heat up a fire or something, and things pumping, just like the bellows breathing. And it says that one way wear a big fancy turban. Of course, people don't wear turbans nowadays so much, but India, this is all from India, so big fancy turban. If you don't bow down to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this turban is just a heavy weight that sinks one in the cycle of birth and death. And it says, other things as well. So, in other words, it's saying all of these senses, if they're not engaged in Krishna service, they're actually, the point is being lost, why we have senses in the first place. Human senses. Animal senses are another thing. They're just eating, sleeping, right, mating, defending. But human senses are meant for God realization. Okay, so we'll stop there. Our speaker didn't come in tonight, so I'm here. But I have to stop a little early because I'm going to the altar. So, thank you very much. And now we'll chant some japa, and maybe Rupa Manohar Prabhu could lead us. Okay, Hare Krishna.